Back to school coverage continues today with a look at the lasting impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and how they continue to affect students. 22 News reporter Duncan McLean is live in the studio with the findings from a recent study out of Harvard.
Well, Rich, that study from Harvard published this year shows students are still feeling the effects of those disruptions from a few years ago and may have even stopped making up ground despite efforts from educators. According to that study, the average U.S. public school student in grades 3 through 8 lost the equivalent of a half year of learning in math and a quarter of a year in reading. But losses were more significant in communities more severely affected by the virus, with direct correlation with death rates. New Haven, Connecticut, highlighted as an example in the study where students were left a year and a half behind in math. That's top of mind topic for educators as classes resume.
Where prior to the pandemic, there was still, a gap with students of their levels and where they perform, but the gap increased. And so continuing to put the academic and behavioral supports in place for our older students in order to fill in those gaps that they continue to have will really help them achieve the most that they can.
Now, State Secretary of Education Dr. Patrick Tutwiler spoke on the administration's approach to continued consequences, highlighting 3 pillars of recovery. They have to be stabilize, heal, and transform. And he said if we try to return to how we taught before the pandemic, it will be at a detriment to students. That Harvard study looked at previous learning disruptions in recent history and indicated that there is typically a sizable rebound in the first year back to normal, but recovery usually stalls in the years that follow. Working for you live in the studio, Duncan McLean, 22 News.